Woof! Welcome to Two Dogs Digs. Hopefully today I'll remember to go live when I'm actually live, as opposed to waiting 10 minutes and not figuring out that I am live. But now I'm live. I think I'm live. If I'm live, tell me I'm live. Otherwise, I'm dead. So, welcome to Two Dogs Digs on our Tuesday night live hall pass that actually starts at 8 o'clock as opposed to starting at 8:10. I think. Rick, am I live?
Yes.
Okay. Helps if you answer me.
Yes, you're alive.
Thank you. Yay, it's alive. Thanks so much.
I'm not awake yet. But...
Rick is still not awake. Thanks to everybody who's joined us. Hi, there's a name I don't recognize. Arena, thanks for popping in. Let's say hello to everybody here. Janet, Jennifer, Mr. Carl, Michael, Susan, Diana, Kathy, hello. Lisa and Sandy, and Kevin and Louette. Who else we got? Tina, Carmen, Cameron, Sandy, Sherry, Marianne, Paul, and last but not least, Andrew. For now, in case there's other people here. I'm not live. Try again. Don't you dare. I did it badly last time, so that's my bad. So welcome. Today, we thought we would take you through the fun that we have, or at least the fun that I have, April, when we go to Brimfield Antique Week. And this is something that we've been doing now, I think, for about at least 10 years now. And it's something that, again, we just really love. Now, for those of you who may or may not be familiar with it, we're going to take you through how Brimfield works, tell you some secrets and things about it. Love it if more people would get a chance to go. It is really well worth the drive. And for us, it's an 8.5 to 9 hour drive to actually go to this. And I kind of treat it like a vacation. Oh, hey, Adrian and Greg. Hello. And Elisa. I treat this as a vacation. So I like when people go to a place like Disney World, they pay for a hotel and then they do all the stuff around Disney. And when people go to Las Vegas, they pay for a hotel and then they do the stuff around. When you go to Aruba, you pay for the hotel and then you do stuff or nothing around the hotel. When you go to Brimfield, you pay for the hotel. Now, the only thing about it that's a little bit potentially different is because reselling is our business, we actually do write off the hotel. Right, Rick?
Yes, we do. I gather up all of the
one of the things that you can potentially look at as a reseller. We claim all our sales that we on all our platforms. So when we're doing that, we're claiming our sales, but we also have the ability to claim expenses. And so hotel rooms are expenses. Gas is an expense. Food and food while you're there is an expense. So it's a secondary way of sort of going, well, at least it's covering it. But we kind of look at that as that's the cost of going and doing things like on any vacation. Yeah, it might be a little bit of a haul from Wisconsin, but we do know people who drive 10, 12 hours or more. And in fact, there are actually people who fly in, including a vast number of Asian tourists. Japanese market is huge, and there are people who actually buy and fill shipping containers to be shipped back. We know of some stores who actually have taken stuff there that I saw a store that was in somewhere, I think it was in Michigan, and they drove there, which is further than us. It's like an extra 4 hours, like 12 hours, to dump their clothing out from a Michigan vintage clothing store. To sell it off there. So it's like really a lot of fun. Don says, I'm toast after 4 hours of driving. 12? Oh boy. Well, no, it doesn't have to be 12 in a row. You can actually drive down and break it up. That's how we actually normally do it. We drive down overnight. So we drive about 4.5 hours on the Saturday or the Sunday, and then we drive another 4 hours on the Monday. So the whole thing about Brimfield is we're going to show you how it happens and sort of how we go about doing it. So first off, let me just sort of say to Rick, what are your thoughts on Brim? He doesn't know I'm asking. What are your thoughts on Brimfield, Rick?
It's a lot of walking. I'm glad we got the card a couple years back. It's just tent after tent after field after tent after field of stuff. Some of it's interesting to look at. Some of it isn't. You can always find something to notice as you move from field to field. Hey, we saw that thing day one in this field, and now it's on this table in this other field with a different dealer that's twice as much as it was the day before.
That's always that's one of the fun sort of our goals. So let me just go into a little bit more about that later. But because the way that Brimfield works is it's literally, I'm going to show you a couple things. So it is what they call, who knows, if it's America's oldest antique flea market, you can find it by just searching under Google under Brimfield itself, or Brimfield Antique Flea Market. And you will easily find a lot of links to it. Now, here it happens 3 times a year. It happens every May, the second week in May or so. Yes, actually, Hydron mentioned that to us while we were away. He has 2 dealers from Taiwan that fill an entire container by going to Brimfield and then shopping at stores. So that's lots of people, 17 hours. Yeah, that's a little bit camper van, extra vacation. Because the nice thing is you could actually make this a vacation within a vacation, because the show itself runs Tuesday through Sunday, but really, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Maybe Friday, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The weekend is huge for people like that are in Boston and things like that to drive into the market. So where it is, let me just, Rick, can you pull up a map just to show where Brimfield is on a map versus Boston, so we can just show people that while I chat a little bit more about this. So it's 3 times a year. It's the second week in May, then the middle of July, and then right after Labor Day. And this is actually their 2024 dates. They are already planning their 2025 dates. So we were there September 3rd to September 8th. So we were there right after the Labor Day period. And we never go in July. So May is usually the biggest show that they have. Then September is the next best. And then July is usually not necessarily the greatest. Yes, wondering if people in 1776 were actually at America's oldest flea market. Yes. So there's Rick. There's Boston.
Boston is way over in the top corner, and Brimfield is down here in the center of the screen.
Right down there. Now, if you scroll out, so there's Springfield, Ohio. That's Springfield, Ohio, where they are not also eating the dogs. Springfield, Massachusetts. This is where you go, and here's where we are. You can see way up in the top corner there, right by my head, right there. There's Toronto, right there. Which way do I point? That way. There's us. So we actually drive all the way down through Buffalo and all the way across. And we usually spend the first night somewhere around Syracuse, Utica, Albany, and then we do the second night to go there. So, but July is actually horrible. We've been one July, and we will never do July again. Plus, it's actually the lightest show that they have, the lightest in terms of dealerships. So the way that it works is it's a little bit weird. So it's this town, this tiny little town that turns into a giant antique show. And here is an image so you can get an idea of the town. This is literally the town. There it is. This is Brimfield is not big. It's actually, it takes you like 4 or 5 minutes to drive through it. In fact, we did a little video. We're going to show you. This is actually driving in on the day before Brimfield starts. So you can see there are people starting to set up tents. This is literally you start on your way in there, and there are tents and more tents and fields and more fields. This is on the one sort of entry level side from the west. So a lot of these people are setting up for the next few days because there's really no sales that go on the Monday. But all of these things are just still. This is still on the same street. More tents. That particular place is called New England Motel. It opens at a different date. And the way that Brimfield works, which is a little on the bizarre side for some people to cope with, is different fields that you see there open on different days. So every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, one field will open, then another field will open, then another field will open. You can see we're still driving through. This is just doing a straight drive through. This is the entire town. There's nothing else really in this entire town of Brimfield other than this. We're coming up to now the sort of east end. This big empty space right here is a giant field called Maze. They actually don't even open up until the Thursday. Then on the north side of there, you see, or the south side, you'll see a place called Brimfield Acres, and then some more sites along here. These places actually set themselves up for the entire week, starting on the Tuesday. So it's a really interesting sort of way to look at that, because you're literally, this is that street I was talking about. You're driving up and down this whole road here, and you can see there are, I'm guessing, what would you say, Rick? Do you think there's about, I was going to say a couple of thousand dealers, maybe 1,500 dealers?
Yeah, 1,500 to 1,700.
There used to be even more.
2,500.
Yeah, there used to be a lot more than that. Carl says, I feel overwhelmed just watching. Oh, Hydron friend was on Maze. Actually, and Heather, who is out today because it's Heather's birthday. Happy birthday, Heather Mackoff. Her friends were also in, they were in, not in Maze, they were in New England Motel. But the way that this actually works is, again, every one of these fields opens on different. So here's a little map to show you kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, Tina actually had that question.
Exactly what I'm going to show you, Tina, so you can plan. So here's this little map, and it starts down here at Dealer's Choice and then goes all the way up. So all the places you saw us drive through are all up and down here. And this is the schedule. So every day you can see on here different times and days when different fields open. Some of them are open for the full time, like Midway opens Tuesday and is there the whole time, and Mahogany Ridge is there Tuesday the whole time. But as an example, Maze is only open Thursday at 9 a.m. And New England Motel starts opening on Wednesday at 6 a.m. So you actually plan out your day based on where the different fields open. So the way that we work it, and I'll just give you the quick sort of thing on it. On Tuesdays, you now start off, I'll go back to that map. On Tuesdays, we start at Brimfield Auction Acres, that's up in this top corner here. And you start at Brimfield Auction Acres because it opens at 8 a.m. And then you run around there. Mahogany Ridge, Stuyvesant, Shelton's, these are all open for the whole thing. But you start at Brimfield, you do that from 8 until 10:30. Then you run all the way down here to Dealer's Choice, because Dealer's Choice actually opens at 11. So there's completely different people in these two things. And then before COVID, Green Acres actually opened at 1. So you had 3 fields opening on that day. The next day, on Wednesday, New England Quaker Acres is open all the time. Stevens Place is open all the time. But on Wednesdays, New England Motel opens at 6 a.m. Heart of the Mart opens at 9 a.m. And Hertan's opens at noon. So again, 3 more things. So it's very fun, very different. And then on Thursdays, Maze opens, and on Friday, Brimfield Acres is back open again because it's only open on Tuesdays and Fridays. But then they're all open for the whole weekend. So as I say, a lot of people go there for the entire, like there's some booths that are open for the entire time. And as Rick was saying, there's other booths that are only open for one show. And you'll see people who will be at a show on Tuesday that will move to a different field on Wednesday, and they'll be at a different field on Thursday, and then they'll be at a different field on Friday. So it's the same person. They're moving.
Sometimes that works into your benefit, though, because they don't set up the table the exact same way.
Yeah.
So you're seeing stuff that might be shifted on the table. It's like, hey, I don't remember that. I remember these other things, but hey, look at that.
Yeah, we often came across booths that Rick would, I'd say, oh, look, this, he goes, they were yesterday, they were at Mays. And I went, they were? And he goes, or no, they were at Heart of the Mart. And I was like, they were? And he goes, yes, I recognize this and this and this. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't recognize any of that stuff. But the other thing that Rick was saying, which is really interesting, is we try to find something the first day. And not intentionally, we look for things that are interesting or weird or things like that. And one of our favorite stories was there was a doll, and it was actually I think it was actually a naughty doll, wasn't it? Which is like the black British.
Yeah, it was an African American doll.
American British sort of cartoon character doll.
Cartoonish face.
And we saw it on Tuesday at Dealer's Choice at 9:30 in the morning, and we saw it, and we just happened to be buying it and saw it, and somebody sold it for, I think it was like 35 bucks. Now, the funny thing was, then we went across to the other place that opened at 11. And I looked and I said to Rick when we walked by a table, I said, isn't that, and it was the same doll. And they had it for 100. The next day, we went to Heart of the Mart, and we saw it at another booth at 200. Then we also saw it at noon at another booth for 250. And then we went to our final time seeing it was at Mays, where it was actually on sale for, I think, $400. And we think we saw somebody buy it. So it's this one item that traveled back and forth and went up and up and up and up. Everybody tried to make their own bit of money on it. And in a lot of cases, people made their own bit of money. But you think somebody sold it for $35. And yes, dealers were literally doing that. Dealers were buying it, then running over to their table and throwing it onto. And we see this all the time. We saw stuff this September, and it was like, I just saw this, and it's like, I thought I just saw this. I was going to go back, and now it's over at that table, and I know it's the same thing because of something. Well, clearance prices are supposed to go down, but in many cases, the dealers are hoping that you've never been there before, because there's people who arrive only on Tuesday. There's people who arrive only on Wednesday. There's people who come on Thursday. And then there's tons of people who come on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So there's people who've never been there. So they don't know that they could have got a huge deal. But it's always fun for us to find that kind of thing. One of the other things that's fun for us is just to find all sorts of really interesting items. So just going to show you a couple of slides of some stuff that we just took pictures of that we just love. I mean, they have such big things. The one thing that shocks me, is that how large some of the items that people end up bringing here. They drive to set up their booths, and I couldn't find a picture of it. I thought I took a picture of it, Rick. I could not find a picture of that 8-foot chandelier that we saw. Somebody brought with them and set up at the front of their booth, like a 6 to 8 foot wide, 6 foot deep chandelier. I was like, I literally was looking at it going, oh my God, what the hell do you decide to bring that big of an item and decide that you're going to have to hang it up and put it out there? I'm just trying to take a double check to see if I did. I don't think I've got one of it, but we did put some pictures of this as we were going along, but some of the stuff that's just fun. So this is actually, you can see everything from giant wagon wheels, old, what would you call it? Like farm equipment, I guess. Funky chairs. That one happened to be a tiki painting. This guy, and I actually kicked myself because I probably should have bought this, Rick. I really probably should have bought this.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the money. It was this set of vintage Star Wars figures. It wasn't just this set, though. It was this set. I couldn't believe it had the original insert inside it. This is a C-3PO. He also had the Darth Vader case with everything inside of that, and he wanted $1,000 for every single thing that he had in there. And that I probably could have got it for $800, but I didn't have $800 on me. But that was, I think somebody got an amazing steal. And we saw people grab some amazing steals in this place. Things like this, I love these. Look at this. Permalift that never lets you down. Store displays. Like, and this is not a small store display. This was some G.I. Joes that I took a picture of. Train tracks. So a lot of people do take Venmo and like
I saw a couple of people taking PayPal.
PayPal and things
A
like
couple of
that.
the dealers in tents do take checks with the appropriate ID.
Yeah, we've actually seen people paying like, here's 200. What was that? Oh, remember, Rick, we saw that woman, and the woman was buying, they were like from the 60s, paper bags, shopping bags, just shopping bags. And she had a stack of these really mod shopping bags. And I looked at them and I was like, I didn't know she was taking them. She had herself, she was writing a check on top of them. And she gave the guy $200 and then said, and I'm going to check for $175. And he said, yep. So filled out a check for $170. And then she took this stack of paper shopping bags for $375. It was like, holy crap, look what she just bought. Then you find these other things that you're like, what? What is this? What exactly is it? It's a folk art bear lion jug thing. I don't even know what it is. Let's see if I got that other one. I wanted this kitty, but the guy never came. The guy left his booth and he didn't come back. Every time I walked by that kitty, there was nobody at the booth. You know,
that kitty reminded me of Gossamer.
Let's just bring along some babies. Not just one, 4 of them. We'll bring them along.
And those were heavy. They were like software.
This was actually really pretty, but they wanted over $200 for it. So some things go really well. Some things are at retail. This was around retail. This was so cute. I almost bought this. This was it's an actual record player called a bongo record player. But because it needs fixing, I thought they were asking too much money for it. But it was so cool looking. I wish it worked. I love stuff like this too. Like, and again, people are bringing these huge things. This is an amazing looking desk. Monkey, like a full wind up monkey. Like, again, it's just, wow. This is so bizarre. The stuff that, and then there's this, Rick, this wanted me to take, he was looking at this, but I couldn't have my Star Wars. He couldn't have his bears.
I probably could have gotten them all for $500. A couple of them were in really rough shape, but a couple of them were like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's always fun. And I think the thing that we like about it is it's literally that. So on the Tuesday, we're there from 8 o'clock in the morning, and we run from 8 o'clock in the morning until about, I know it'll tire a lot of you out. It tires Rick out. So we go from 8 till about 4. So it's a good 8 hours. There's a couple of really good sort of food truck areas on there that make amazing food.
Expensive, but
expensive. It's not the cheapest food, but it is really, really amazingly good food that they have there. There's a truck in the main part of the New England Hotel, which is where I always get. They make a killer turkey sandwich, roast turkey sandwich. So I have that every year. Welcome, Charmaine. And then there's a couple of other places along there, like along the whole street. So you're walking the street, like literally into field after field. Now, when the field that you just did, so on Tuesday, we got there for 8 o'clock in the morning, actually, for the field to open. We got there at 8:30. And we walked through the whole field. And I'm not sure if I put a picture of this one up or not. I have to take a look and see. There were things that we saw in the field that were really neat. Let's see if I can find it here, because I didn't download every picture, because I'm filled with photos here of things. Let me just see if I can find this. This one place that we went had things like this. Now I did show this, happened to show this on the, which was a huge box of Kojak cigars. So we always try and look for stuff that's there's multiples of. I mean, another guy had all these Pac-Man, but they wanted like $10 a thing for the Pac-Man. And it's like, if they were cheaper, I would have ended up picking them up for sure. But there's just so much for you to look at that you can spend the day. I sort of move it as a combination of spending the day looking for things, and then sometimes buying things that we're not sure whether I should have bought. So this is one that I bought that we're not sure whether I should have bought. I'm just going to show it here. This is a box that we found, and it was the first purchase of our day, and it is an entire huge box of animation cells. Now, literally, you can see 300, Rick?
300 to 400.
300 to 400
plus storyboards
of these animation cells, and they are from a film from 2000 and I think it's 2001. Let me just see if I can find it. That was voiced by Vincent Price. I think this is it. Yes, this is it. You can actually find it. Sorry, 1980. It's by Vincent Price, and this is the film. It's called The Sorcerer's Apprentice. I'm just going to pop on here. I know you're not. Yep, this is it. So this is actually, we actually have, I think the cells were 50+% of these. I'm not sure if we have any background pieces or not.
There might be 3 or 4. It was mostly the.
But we got like this guy. We got this wizard and everything like that. So it's such a weird kind of thing. It was a Canadian film, actually. And I saw that huge box. And it was this huge box. And I said to Rick, well, I'd like to get it, because we haven't bought anything yet. And Rick was like,
no.
8:36.
No.
You've only been here for 36 minutes. It's like, no, you're not buying anything. And I said, how much is this big box? And the person said $100. And I said, oh, it's $100. And I'm looking in it, and I'm looking in it, and I'm thinking, there are so many pieces inside this box. It's just ridiculous how many pieces are inside this box. So many pieces that are inside this box of animation cells. There's like parts of the pieces, like there's 3 and 4, and these are hand painted, I think, but they're just so cool. Some of them are just a piece, like, because they put layer over layer over layer over layer. And there's the wizard guy. Like, look at that. And I thought, oh, okay. Well, I said to Rick, I want this. Rick goes, no. So I said, what do I have to do to get it? And Rick just looked at me and said, tell them $80. They won't say yes. And I looked and I said, will you take 80? And the wife went, yep. And Rick, I said, guess what? And he's like, oh, crap, on a stick. So the first thing we bought was a giant box that weighs probably 25 pounds.
Yeah. Thank goodness it fit in the cart.
Yes. So a few years ago, he made me buy him a cart. So we have a collapsible cart that we take along. So we have the cart.
Oh, God. The first year, we were carting around so much and such heavy things that I strained my arms. I couldn't move my arms the week after Brimfield because it was dragging stuff around too much.
Yeah. Also, at one of the booths that I saw, somebody had, I thought these were neat. I didn't, the challenge that I have, here's the biggest challenge that I have. Actually, I don't think, I think I could still put in the Vincent Price thing, because it is actually Vincent Price.
Actually, the cart does not get in the way at all.
So many carts.
Everybody has a cart, and basically, if you want to go into a booth, the etiquette is to leave your cart outside the entrance of the booth, but not in the way so that people can still come in and go out. We always put a blanket over our stuff in the cart as well. And nobody's walked away with it yet.
No, so I'll show you just to give you an example. This is kind of like one of the fields. And actually you'll see here, as a lot of people have tents set up, but here's a perfect example. Down in this bottom corner here, there's a cart right down in this bottom corner. So somebody dropped their cart and then they're walking around inside here. So that's what people do. Tons of carts. This just happens to be one field. And I'm not even sure. I think this might be 1/4 of New England Motel.
Yep. That's towards the back of New England.
Yeah, towards the back of the New England Motel thing. So, but we were looking for stuff. And the one thing that's a little different from Brimfield versus some other places is it has great Wi-Fi signals. But I don't like looking stuff up personally. It's just a me thing. So I go by gut in a lot of cases. So like with that Sorcerer's Apprentice thing, I go by gut and I go, I'm going to pick this up for $80. I think I've got 300 pieces of thing in here. I can probably get me like $1 a piece. I just need to make my money on $80 first, and then the rest of it I can figure out what to do with later. So I'm actually preparing right now and getting some of those things to prepare to put on eBay. Don says, you need a scooter, one field and you'd be done. Now you must see the cart. It's just a regular fold-up cart. Start the cart! But in the same field that we found those things, I found somebody and they had these. Now, I remember these as being very collectible. Now, a guy had a whole box of these, and I don't know if anybody recognizes what they are just by looking at what that is. So these are what's known by many to be.
Nobody's jumping in the chat.
They're known as Little Big Books.
Oh,
Sandra got it. Little Big Book. So there's usually a cartoon on one side, and some of them are of more popular things, like there's Bugs Bunny. There is Little Orphan Annie. So this guy had all of these, and this is the nice thing about a lot of these places. People sometimes want to get rid of everything. So this,
I know the feeling.
Some are in a better shape, like G-Man was in okay shape. Jungle Jim is missing its back on it. But I ended up picking up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, about 15 or so. And his original price, and this was actually that morning, his original price was, I said, what do you want for these? And he said, I want $5 a piece. And that would have been $75. And I think I said to him, or I did say to him, I said, well, would you take 30? And he said, yep. He'd only been open for half an hour. And he said he'd take 30. Now, again, I have to look.
You're the only person who looked at them the entire year.
Maybe. Well, I was the only person who looked at them, I guess, in the first 30 minutes or 40 minutes that he was open. Actually, it was close to an hour, I guess, hour we were there. And he was right near the front. So I guess he just didn't have anybody taking a look at them. So for his sake, it was like he'd rather get $30 than nothing. Some of these can sell for a little bit of money, like $20, $30. Some of them don't sell for much. So I've got to do the research on each one of these. And this particular one, this is Tim McCoy and the Sandy Gulch Stampede. So, Rick, you can look up Tim McCoy.
Can I now?
Yeah, you can. And this is copyright. This is 1939. So most of these big little books came out in the 30s.
The Sandy Gulch what?
Tim McCoy.
Stampede.
Sandy Gulch. And this one actually is called a better little book as opposed to a big little book. So there's two different companies that made them. So very, very, very popular again back in the olden days.
There's one in better condition for $37 US.
So it might be something. I'm going to actually get good money from that and at least make my $30 back. So it was, again, it's part of the fun for us is going to search for stuff.
There you go.
There he is. Yeah, it's a little bit better shape than mine. We also pick up things of all sorts that again, I don't really know whether I didn't look any of those books up when I'm sitting there. I just went, man, I'm going to buy them. Other things I didn't look up that I picked up while I was there. I love these. The guy had these. Sometimes you find amazing deals. This, for those of you who are into toys, I saw one deal that made me just, I don't know how, well, I don't know if it was a deal or not. I saw one guy walking around, and this was on the Wednesday, I think.
Yeah, it's the
Wednesday afternoon.
I was walking around with you. It was after lunch.
No, this was when you were back at the car in the air conditioner.
Oh no, so it's not the huge lot of G.I. Joe stuff.
No, it was not that. That was another one. But this was when I told you it was a guy who was pulling a wagon with a giant WWF box from the early wrestling figures, and falling all out of the box were the cards for the figures, empty cards. So I think somebody sold him that. I almost stopped him to ask, I just looked at him and holy crap, that was great. Now the thing is, I myself found a find like that on the Friday, 4 days after somebody had been open. No, 3. They'd opened on the Wednesday. This is the Friday. And on the Friday afternoon, I walked by somebody and they had a whole stack of Star Wars original boxes collapsed at their booth. And I said, what do you want for those? He goes, oh, I was going to throw them out. How about like $20? So I ended up picking up boxes of Millennium Falcon, for $20. So it was amazing. So you can find amazing. These, I don't think they're worth more than maybe 20 a piece, but I just had to pick them up for $5. This is so cute. This is, let me just pick up this here. This is Strawberry Shortcake. And I actually am not used to seeing these outfits on the card. I've got some Strawberry Shortcakes. So this is actually, I got these both for $5 a piece, which I thought was a nice little find there to find something that was in that kind of condition. I also picked up in the toy world, just other things that I thought, well, these are interesting. And I honestly have no clue how interesting they are or not. But some of these were like just $1 or $2 at people's booths. So you do find things that don't cost a lot of money. Little boat series boats. I got this huge bag of cowboys and Indians on horses that's in a sealed bag. I think this cost me $5. I got everybody's favorite Lammy Clackies. Everybody wants Lammy Clackies. I actually got a number of nursery kind of toys and things like that were all in their packages, which I thought was fun to end up pick up. Just things like this. And that's just it. A lot of people have a real mix of stuff on their tables too. So that's the interesting thing is you're finding people who don't just focus. There's some people who like their entire table is Pyrex. And you'll see the entire table of Pyrex. And then sometimes you'll see somebody who's got an entire table of Pyrex, and then sitting beside the entire table of Pyrex, they have like a Barbie doll. So you don't even know. Then there's other people who just have literally estate cleanouts. There's one guy who I see there every time, and he literally does estate cleanouts, and he loads his truck from an estate cleanout, usually the week before it goes to Brimfield. And we've actually seen this guy. He drives to Brimfield. He drives to Madison Bookville, which is in upstate New York. He also drives all the way down to Florida because we met him in Florida at a flea market. He remembered me because I bought a wedding dress from him one year in the box. It was $1. I had to buy it. And yes, we did sell it. We ended up selling it at our garage sale for $25. But Lammy Clackies are really good breaded and fried. So they're fine. They're fun kind of things, and like he just literally dumps box. So there's a lot of dirt on things, a lot of cleaning needed, but a lot of people just trying to get rid of as much stuff as they possibly can. Then you find things like, well, this, for example, this happened to be on somebody's table, and it was dirty as hell. And I asked him how much it was, and he said, $25. And I said, oh, it's really dirty. And he said, $20. And I went, it doesn't open. Do you have the key? And he goes, I got no key. $5. So I picked it up for $5. I take it back to Rick, and Rick goes, if you push it this way, it opens.
And it cleaned up really
And then
easily
he cleaned it up
because it's
really nice.
vinyl.
This little $5 buy. This is actually sold for almost, I think, Rick, you found it selling for like $100, right?
Well, these are some recent sales.
50.
53, 60.
So a $5 buy for $50.
The most expensive was in 2022. And it sold for $165.
But it's in nice shape, so I'll make a good 30, $40 on that easily enough. We have this thing, which I don't even know why we bought. We just thought it was funny. It was a whole bag of bees. Just little.
It's because they have the little mesh
Googly
wings.
eyes.
And they have the little mesh wings.
And little mesh wings.
At Christmas time, some of the vintage ornaments that we sold had the same mesh wings.
And we paid $5 for the googly-eyed bees.
Yes, we did.
Rick's got a couple of things down there.
Yeah, well, to start with, Craig did show this in a Thrift It or Throw It from Brimfield. It was an entire set of, or an entire box of these vintage paper plates and paper cups.
Now, most of you told me not to buy it.
They're quite cute.
Most people said, no, I wouldn't buy that on a Thrift It or Throw It. Let me just see if I can find it. Here we go. This was the actual, that was the entire tub, this entire box. And there are, I think when we did the count, Rick, 46 sets.
Yes. So
a set, it being 6 plates that are sealed and 6 cups that are sealed. There's 46 sets of these. Rick, you can show it back up again if you got it. And they're dated 1961, right on them. They're all sealed. And we actually saw someone selling something close to this. It might even been this on Etsy. For just a plate, they were asking $25. So I got the entire box for 40, didn't I, Rick?
40, yeah.
$40 for the entire box. So that's less than $1 for a plate and cup. So we're
And
putting
at
those.
that same booth,
Oh, and at that same booth,
they had these. They're a little drink tray, or a drink and sandwich tray. A set of 8. The price was $15, but we got them for $10.
and I actually said to Rick, why are you buying those? And he said, because I think they're cute.
Because I think they're cute. And, whoops, sorry. I have to share the right screen. Give me a second. Da, 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 da. I don't do this as often as Craig. There we go. And add to stage. So somebody is listing one for $58.
And they're not as nice as the red ones that Rick has.
No, the red ones are really cool. Someone has a set of 7 for $60. But again, the ones we have are red and transparent. So they're a little more Star Trek looking.
Yeah, so we'll do them as probably sets of 4.
Yeah, we'll do 2 sets of 4, and we'll probably price them at
$50.
maybe $50 for the set of 4.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
So you have a quantity of 2. Now, let me see. There's one other that we ended up picking up. So now what I'm going to show you next is actually maize. Now, this is the thing. So I talk about each different fields opening at different times. So half of the fields, again, so I'll go back to that big, huge picture here. Half of the fields that you see here, that you see in this, oh, there we go. Half of the fields that you see in this image are open all the time. So like these are all the fields. This part here, these are open all the time here. This one is open all the time. This one opens only on Wednesday and then closes down. This one's open all the time. This one's open part-time. This is the food court. This one's open all the time. This big one here that you're seeing here is Maze. Now, the fun thing about Maze is the way they set themselves up is nobody's even allowed. They call it everyone's a dealer here. No one's even allowed to open a box or set an item out until 9 a.m. when the bell rings. Now, I've got a video I'm just going to show you. I may have some
It
more.
opens on Thursday only at 9 a.m. And the interesting thing about it is nobody's allowed to take anything out of their cars until 9 a.m. So everybody's an early buyer. Now let's see if this is a popular place to go. And it's not a small place either. Look how far back it goes. Way back
That
there.
whole field ends up almost 50% filled.
So this is the lineup to get into Maze.
So this is people on the Thursday morning because Maze opens at 9. These are people lined up at 8:30 in the morning. Half an hour before it even opens, on both sides of the opening. It goes this long both ways on the entrance, and there's a back entrance that has just as big a lineup.
It's 10 minutes
Now this one
before
happens.
it actually starts. And these are all people lined up to get into Maze. And
Now, here's the fun thing. I hate this. Across the street from the opening, where everybody opens, a whole bunch of people stand there. And at like 10 seconds before, or the minute they see the gate open and the first person come through, all these people that are on the far side of that road run across the middle of the road to butt their way in against the people who've been lined up there since before 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, there are people who get there when we drove into town that day, Rick, what was it? We were in town at like 5 after 8, and there were already about 50 people on both sides of the entrance. Mm-hmm. So those people are waiting for an hour. Now, watch this, and I'll show you what I mean by how crazy they are.
it's also down the other side.
So you can see a little bit further ahead. This is still not at the entrance. The entrance is past those white things. All those people that are on
The entrance is over there by the white sign.
By the white sign. These people have been there since 8 o'clock, an hour. They waited an hour to get in that door. And these are all the people who want to run.
Here's all the assholes.
These are all the assholes.
These are all the assholes that stand on this side of the street, then don't line up. This is what assholes look like. Like that. That's an asshole. That's an asshole. All of those people are assholes. And as they come in,
So we yelled it at them. I didn't care. So we get in there, but again, part of the fun and challenge on this is what the tables are like. They're empty because running across the street makes absolutely no sense at all because nobody's opened their trunk.
Yeah, I don't get mad anymore. It's just like
the first year we were in line and we got mad 10 years ago. Then we realized that once we got in the door, we had to wait.
Hurry up and wait.
You literally get to somebody's car and the trunk is open. They're bringing out one box. So imagine setting up your own garage sale table right then and there. That's exactly it. So Don, we do not line up. Here's your biggest tip about Brimfield. If you ever go and you go to Maze, don't line up. You go pick up your tickets because you can buy your tickets half an hour beforehand. Just pick your ticket up. Then walk away and shop at some of the other places that are already open. Then once the doors open and the crowd has gone like this, go in. and then you'll actually see people who are like 40-50% set up.
Yeah.
We've been in there and gone by places. You actually have to walk the whole place, usually at least twice, because in the first hour of walking through, you still see people who haven't got all their stuff out yet, because as they're bringing out one thing, people are trying to shop for that one thing, and so they can't get to the other box because they're selling what's in the box in front of them. So it's really crazy. You'd be ticked and then having to wait. Yeah, but do people snatch things out of people's cars? No, we've never seen anything like that.
I think once, about 8 years ago, we heard somebody yelling about somebody taking something from a cart.
Yes. And I did hear, I never told you this one, Rick. I did in one of the fields, I saw somebody yelling because they had some Pyrex in their hand that they had to chase somebody who took it from their booth. And they were like, the guy didn't pay for it. He just walked away from the booth. So this guy chased him down. So now Elisa says, my strategy would be go to the back first. You know what? Strategy doesn't work because there's an entrance at the back with just as many people coming in. There's no real cool strategy. We have tried start at the front, start at the left, start at the right, start at the back, and none of it works.
For my money, I would say you don't even need to go through the door or the gate until about 9:30 to give the dealers enough time to actually set stuff out. You're not really going to be able to be at every single booth right at the crack of when somebody unpacks a box, so it's all chance anyways.
Yeah. A lot of it is very much chance, and it's sort of like you see what you can possibly try and find.
Now, if you continue playing that video, there is a clip from the clothing guy.
Yeah, hold on. Let me just get back to that video. Right here.
It's the run everywhere.
This is what I think is fun. It's the zombies at the schmata pile. Literally piles and piles of clothing. And people just sitting on the floor, rummaging through every one of them. Now, this is at one of the places. There were multiple places this happened. And in fact, there was one in the second place we went on the Wednesday. And I asked Rick if I could start searching through it. And he said, no, we don't sell clothing. We buy clothing and then we never sell it. So you're not allowed to buy clothing.
Just because it's in a pile on the ground doesn't mean the dealer isn't going to charge you 50.
That dealer was you. I told you that dealer was saying take a plastic bag and fill it up for $5.
That dealer was, but the other dealer,
they were expensive as hell. But the dealer I wanted to buy from was $5.
The one that had all of the rock T-shirts.
Yeah. It's
Well,
a little too much like the Goodwill bins. It is a little bit like the Goodwill bins. That is very true. Carl's, my blood pressure is increasing. Now, the thing is, every once in a while, you go through, and the very first buy that we actually picked up at this amazing maze was about a quarter of the way in. It was from a table that had been pretty well 80% set up, Rick. And we looked at the stuff on the table. And as we were leaving the table, this is on the floor. That's the lady holding it. So Rick said,
how much?
And the lady said,
$100.
And Rick said,
how about 80?
Guess what came home with us for $80? A 36-inch tall working rain lamp. And actually one that we've never seen. This is called the grist mill. So it was it's really interesting. Now, we have bought these kind of things before. We actually picked up at Madison Bootfield last summer a smaller rain lamp for $40. And that smaller rain lamp for $40 we sold for $300, I think, Rick, something like that. Yep. $300 or $400. So we are going to risk this. And look at us. We're risking it right away. The minute we got back, it went into our max sold. And here it is right now. This is in our max sold. There it is, lit up. So we haven't tested it. We said that it hasn't been tested with oil, but it's gigantic.
Yeah,
It
that
actually looks cool
needs,
lit up too.
That needs 64 ounces of oil.
64 ounces.
That's like 8
Yeah.
cups of oil.
Yeah, we didn't have the oil. They didn't have any of the oil.
Actually, the lady that we
heck is
bought
a
it from
rain lamp?
said that they had the oil spill in their car.
Oh yeah. A rain lamp actually, I don't know if Rick will be able to find an image on it. What a rain lamp does is if you go to let me see if I can go back to that other image that I had. No, where'd it go? Where'd my rain lamp go? So what it does is all these strings that are up and down here that you can see all around it, mineral oil actually drips down those strings and then it goes back up into the middle and drips back down. Yeah, that's what we sold last time. It was a naked lady one. But if you do look up rain lamps, you'll see all sorts of different ones. There's all sorts of different kinds. But this is actually one of the largest ones that's there. And you can see the prices on these things can be ridiculous. There's one for $850. So ours actually has sold for over $500. And so we have, and this is the thing I love that's about this business. We don't mind the risk. So we bought this for $80 US. That's about $100 Canadian. We've got it in our max sold right now. Our max sold is, and there's one that sold for $1,500. But we've got it in our max sold right now, and our bids right at the moment are only $30 on this with 2 days left. So
yeah, here's what it looks like working.
you can see all the oil dripping down, and then it goes back up the pipes and then back down again.
Now, for the grist mill, it actually turns
the wheel.
Turn.
Yeah, makes the wheel turn on the actual mill itself. There on this mill. Got a better picture of the mill there. It makes that wheel turn around. You can see where the oil can come up in there and makes the wheel turn around. So I don't know, April, how the oil gets in it. I don't care.
There's a reservoir at the bottom that the pump sits in. So basically, you see where the ferns are? You would pour the oil past the ferns.
But you don't have to have the oil in that. You could just put it in without the oil. I mean, look how cool it looks without it. But again, that's part of the fun when we go to someplace like Brimfield is we pick up stuff. We don't necessarily know what it's going to be. One of the other things that I picked up and I asked people about, and I surprisingly about 40 or 50% of people said, don't buy it. Here's a couple other things I ended up picking up while I was there. I love it when people have a story behind something. This guy had this bag, and this bag is filled with, if anybody recognizes them, these are what are known as Grateful Dead bears. So they are little big. When Beanie Babies came out, these are the Grateful Dead versions of the bears. But he had this huge story on this. It's like, must be certified deadhead to open the bag. Discounts for visiting from the Planet Schwartz. I had a lovely chat with the guy. He was a lot of fun. Rick had already gone back to the car on this one. I asked him how much they were, and he said $100. And I said, "Oh, that's too much for me." And he goes, "Are you a deadhead?" And I went, "Yeah, I'm a deadhead. Don't I look like a deadhead?" And he goes, "Okay, how about 75?" I said, "I'm not that much of a deadhead." He said, "About 50." I went, "I'm a deadhead." So I gave him $50 because I thought, interestingly enough, it might be a good thing for $5 a piece. So I didn't mind that risk. And again, we risk on lots of stuff. This is another risk that we did. The other thing I bought, which I could not pass up, and I wished I had more money. We went by this one guy, and I now found out something neat, which he's at the same spot every year. He likes doing bulk things. So when I walked up, he had this amazing, I didn't know he was bulk, an amazing collection of vintage G.I. Joes. I'm talking 1960s G.I. Joes, 67, 68, 69 G.I. Joes. He probably had about 15 to 20 of them. And clothing all over the place. And accessories. He had a helicopter in a box. He had a space capsule in a box. And I just looked at them and I thought, I'm going to look at those in a moment. I will go back and look at the other things inside his booth. I go back to the inside his booth, and a guy said, I come out of his booth, and the guy is packing everything up. One guy. And so I said, after he left, I said, how much was that? He said he sold everything in that batch for $600. Easily a $2,000 buy. So between that $600 thing, which I didn't buy, and the $1,000 Star Wars thing I didn't buy, it's like I'm a little disappointed I didn't get those things. But I did put one other thing up there, which a lot of you told me not to buy as well. At this same guy's booth, he had a whole batch of movie magazines, and I'm flipping through the movie magazines, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the movie magazines, I see this. So you're gonna know that I bought it. I see this, Teen Life, and then behind it there is a Beatles Spectacular, 16 magazine Beatles Spectacular. And
Carl is asking, did you get the teen magazine?
Remember these darn books. Like, I literally remember these books. And in some of the cases, they may have posters inside them. I haven't looked on. I got 62 of these books. And all 62 books, he sold me for $60, Rick? $80. $60 or $80?
60, I think.
But so much Beatles stuff that it was just, I could not pass it up. I mean, there's one book, I don't know if it's here or not. Even things like this. This is so cool. Look at Monster Spooks Take Over TV. Look at Cher. Look at all these. Sonny and Cher answer 100 intimate questions. I just remember these books like crazy. These were such amazing. Look at the cover.
Nina remembers buying Tiger Beat.
Yes. Tiger Beat. Yes, Tiger Beat. 16 Spectacular. Teen Life. I didn't even know there were. And so, again, I bought all of these. 62.
I have one more thing to show.
So,
before
but again,
we
I did this for the fun of looking at things like this. I have not looked any of these up. This is like a lot of the pinups are black and white. I will look to see if there's things inside, but I think this is just an amazing buy for basically $1 or $2 Canadian each. I don't think I'll lose any money on them, and it'll be fun for me to look at.
Yes, you'll reminisce on your childhood.
Yes.
I have one more thing to show. And this is something that Craig bought that I didn't look at to buy. It's basically a lucite sailboat with a sail that wasn't attached very nicely. I have looked at this thing to see if there's a signature because, believe it or not, these things are actually quite popular. And if they're signed, they can go for a couple $100. I think you paid $15.
Yeah.
I just have to figure out how to reattach the sail so that it looks like it's part of the sculpture.
I just thought it was so cool, and I actually got it with a couple of other art pieces that I asked about, and thought I got to pick these up. I got them for 40, and they had listed for 75. So it was just some fun things, and that's the whole thing about Brimfield. It's a really fun sort of time period. If you are going there, again, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the best 3 days. Friday and Saturdays are busy as hell. And we can give people lots and lots of hints on how to do it. Hotels, we've actually booked our hotel for next May already. If you want to be in that area, in the area close to Brimfield, there's no hotels in Brimfield. The closest is a city called Sturbridge, which is and Southbridge, which are about 15-minute drive away, straight on the highway. There's only one highway in too, and like it's just in and through. And on the Friday morning, you can be backed up for an hour, which is normally a 10-minute drive. It can take you an hour to get into town.
Yeah, I noticed that this time around that the traffic didn't seem to be as heavy as in years past. And some of the dealers were actually mentioning how light the traffic was and how light sales were earlier in the week.
And that's the thing. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was emptier than normal. So next May, we're going to be doing it again and see if it gets busier because it seems that in some cases, some of these bigger antique fairs are starting to be a little more on the wayside. Brimfield actually does a traveling show as well. It goes to different markets, but it doesn't have the same people at it as this does. So again, just think about it as an exciting kind of thing to look at. It's Brimfield flea markets. It's May, July, and September. So May or September, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So if it takes you 2 days to get there, have a fun drive. Drive into upstate New York and drive through. Go to Rochester. Go to the Rochester Museum of Play. In Jamestown, New York, there is I Love Lucy's studios and the Comedy Museum. If you're coming from the New York area or south, drive in and take a stop if you want to and spend some of your money at Foxwood Casino or something like that in Connecticut. There's all sorts of different ways to get there. Go to Boston for a couple of days, then come in. There's lots of different ways to go there and have some fun. And again, it's really a fun thing to walk through. Even if you're not shopping, it's basically the equivalent of, oh my God, I've never seen this kind of thing before. I can't imagine why somebody would bring it. I can't, and then seeing it sell, things like that. It's just so much fun to do that sort of thing. So that's why we like doing it. It is a lot of fun for me. I said to Rick before we went there, I was like, what do we don't get anything? He goes, well, spin your attitude around and let's think about it as a fun thing. And so that's what I did. I spun my attitude from what if I can't find anything into this is going to be fun. And I had a lot of fun. We only spent probably $500.
Yeah.
We have spent over 3,000 at Brimfield before. So we have had a van you had no room in at all, packed from the minivan from the top to the bottom with no back seat. This time we came back with 5 tubs. Whoa.
And the rain lamp.
And a rain lamp. A giant rain lamp. So take a look at us on Thursday. Watch our Max Sold. It's going to be ending at 8:30. We might do an Max Sold live. And let's see if we can get that rain lamp at least to $150 so that we don't lose money on it. Thanks again to everybody who watched, especially everybody who is a member here of the Kennel Club. Hopefully you'll find some things you might think about or even try this as a different kind of vacation for you. Next year we might do, I doubt we will, but we might do the longest garage sale, but that's a much bigger drive for us. Brian Camhurst and Charmaine did that this past year, and I know a couple other people in the group have also done it. But right now it's going through states that we won't go to. So much for that. But we'll see you soon. Next week, I don't know what we'll do next week. We haven't decided on our topic yet. There'll be something. Who knows what it'll be. And if you're in the Windsor area, shout out. There is a note in the craft group. There will be a meetup for people in Windsor. Brian and Charmaine are holding it. If I can get Rick to convince that we can drive 4 hours down there, we might join them. He's not looking. He didn't know. He's like, what? But other than that, have some fun.
Sorry, my screen was frozen. What did you say?
Do some shopping. Find some stuff to flip and let us know about it in craft. Take care, everybody.
Bye,
I'm going to go read about Herman's Hermits now. I'll talk to you, Sherry. I did see your message. Bye.